is king! Christ is king! Christ is king! Let all that you do be done in love. A Christian, when they see their society collapsing around them, doesn't cower or run in fear. He doesn't stick his head in the sand and hope that it will all change and just go away and be all right. He doesn't throw up his hands and say all is lost. A true man, when he sees a challenge, he rises to the challenge. He digs deep within his own soul to find the strength to do what is necessary to meet the challenge in front of him. And this is what as Christians we are called to do. That means that when we see our society collapsing around us, we don't run away. We don't go and join the opposition as Andrew Tate did. We don't despair. No, as Christians, we stand up for that which is good and true and noble. The tutelage of our Lord Jesus Christ calls us to bear our cross and to suffer in his way. Here's another example. Muhammad was giving the surah of the Qur'an, the ayah of the Qur'an, which said that those Muslims who go out and fight in the cause of jihad are better than those who stay behind. At which point he was interrupted by a blind man who was behind him, who said, what about me? I would go and fight jihad except for the fact that I am blind. And then conveniently, the ayah of the Quran changes to those who go out and fight in the way of Allah are superior to those who stay behind, except unless they have a disability. So there are countless examples of Muhammad's convenient revelations that get him out of a sticky wicket.
I think Jesus slaughtered people.
Keep going.
Jesus slaughtered people. Why don't you tell the truth? Jesus slaughtered people.
Yeah.
Jesus killed children.
When you actually look at majority of his marriages were for multiple
girls,
reasons, not
boys.
for the reasons. Okay,
Sorry, could you stand a bit closer? I can't. Go on.
In regards to the convenience example of the prophet having more wives, just going from even the Bible and Revelations, every prophet has had multiple wives. Majority of them did. David had how many wives? According to the Bible, some say over 300 wives. Solomon had at least 99. In fact, Solomon even was talked about a prayer in the Bible where he asked that he could sleep with all his wives in one night, but he forgot to. But again, we could say convenient revelation. You could say that for the Bible, and you could say that for any holy book. But again, we do not know the reason why Allah or the revelation has came. We can say it's convenient because the circumstances behind it appears convenient to us because we're not godly. We're not prophetly, we are not from that. So if God has revealed a revelation, again, if you want to, a convenient revelation was when God again spoke.
Kings 11:3.
When God says to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell your people read 50 namaz. Why is he telling us this story that it goes from 50 to 40 to 30 to 20 to 5? A convenient revelation would be read 5 namaz. Why is he telling us this difficult discussion process between him and God? Because like the previous prophets of Ibrahim and Moses, there is a discussion process between the prophet and God. Things go back and forward. God is very understanding and he understands the difficulties of people. Things have to progress. Nothing straight away. There is going to be things which change like that, and there's going to be things which do not change. And again, I personally believe that what you're saying is correct, but it's very selective, and it's also using definitions or sensationalization, in my opinion, that suits a narrative, which I could do the same with. Everybody's guilty of using a narrative, buddy. Again, we're lucky that we can talk like adults.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't.
And just so you know, I'm appreciating the fact that you are engaging like an intelligent adult.
There's no need
I really do.
No,
I know. I really do appreciate it.
I do genuinely believe that anything that we put as convenient, if we were to then go through the Bible, the Torah, even go and bring a couple of Hindu scriptures, there will seem things that seem convenient. But again, we have to look at it.
So let me reply, because let's just understand the context of those two passages that I've cited. So Surah 66, Ayah 1, the reason why it was something that was something that was, Allah says, O Prophet, you have held to be forbidden that which I have made permissible, is because Muhammad used to go and visit his wives in a sequence, and one of his wives used to give them a honey drink, and that honey drink used to make Muhammad's breath smell. And Aisha was one of the wives that objected to the bad breath of Muhammad and made him promise not to go and see that particular wife, or not to go and see that particular concubine, right? This is Islamic tasfiyah. This is Islamic teaching, right? Yeah, no, don't. If you want to jump into this debate, be a part of the debate. But I'm talking to him. But the reality is, that means that, and Aisha and another one of the wives conspired in their jealousy about Muhammad going to one of these wives to say to Muhammad that your breath smells. So it wasn't that his breath actually smelled, sorry. It was that they conspired to say your breath smelled because they were jealous, which means Aisha lied to the Prophet Muhammad, and Aisha is at the base of many hadiths. And Muslims believe that a liar shouldn't be trusted as a source of hadith, and yet so many of her hadiths you believe in. When it comes to Surah 33:7, it's that according to Al-Tabari, and he's telling a story, he's not giving tasfiyah. He's telling a story as to why he's going to tell a story as to why. Sorry, bear with me a second. Yeah, I just need to regather my thoughts. I'm just gonna regather my thoughts.
Yes, maybe, but go away. Just
He never criticizes Bible. Doesn't matter. He always criticizes.
So,
go away just now.
Please go away.
Right.
Yeah. So the reality is that according to Al-Tabari, he tells a story about why 33:7 was revealed. Al-Tabari testifies, and he's one of your earliest Islamic sources, that the reason why that verse was revealed is that he went to the place of the house of his adopted son Zaid, and saw his wife naked and was aroused by that, half naked. That's what Al-Tabari says. I'm not saying it, right? And that itself is a sin, my friend. To lust after someone else's wife, even your adopted son's wife. That's a big thing, bro. Yeah, go on.
When it comes, sorry, these are just totally different things, but I just wanted to boil this in my head. When it comes to looking at a woman lustfully, the first look, this is because Allah knows, He knows that we cannot avoid our eyes what's in front of us, right?
Yeah.
The first look is not sinful. The first look, you put your eyes down, you cover and turn away, right? As for lusting, the way Tabari has worded it, I'm sure is not as sensationalized as you've worded it, right? Because again, Tabari has revealed this in Arabic. When he went to his adopted son's house and seen his wife, was she half naked? Was her veil not on? Was her hijab not on? Did something slip? We are not in that situation, and Tabari is many years after. Regardless, we're going back to 66:1, which is saying, "O Prophet, what has been prescribed for you, you should go for it and not." Is your argument because that's a convenient surah for him, or is your argument for his fear? Because I'm not sure which argument.
Right, so it's another example of a convenient revelation, because Muhammad was attracted to his adopted son's wife, but couldn't marry her because she was adopted, and under the laws of adoption, you couldn't marry your adopted son's wife because they were family to you, so they were haram. However, he then receives a convenient revelation in 33:7 that abolishes adoption completely. Now, the idea of abolishing something good is itself problematic. To say that something that is good like adoption should be abolished denies a good to people that they should be able to pursue. That's another problem. But this is an example of a convenient revelation.
I don't think it abolished. It didn't abolish adoption. I think there is rules around adoption in Islam, which is a very complex matter in regards to giving the name, the rights to inheritance. This is for a jurist, someone that will understand the laws of Islam. This is totally different to revelation, and this is something I would say is more relating and more given to the laws of what you can inherit and what you cannot inherit, and what is your sons, your adopted sons, and what is yours and what isn't yours. When it goes back to Surah 66:1, the Prophet again Allah is saying to him, what is prescribed for you, Ya Rasulullah? This is yours. You cannot be concerned about other people or worrying other people or upsetting other people. What is prescribed for you is yours, and this is what we call haqq. This is yours. You're right, take it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't again see this. Again, it could appear convenient, but again, it just depends on the context and how you want to take it. My biggest issue, which I find, sorry, what's your name, buddy?
Bob.
My name's Ayaz. Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
I find a lot of the things in the Quran, if you really want to understand it, and regardless of your religion or faith, you need to understand the surroundings behind it. Was this at the time of Makkah? Was this at the time of Medina? Which part of the Prophet's life this was in? What time was the Muslims in? I think everything in Islam. You know, one guy gave me a great example. He goes, well, in regards to hadiths, which we like to call like Tabari and that, these are like medicine books. And if I tell you to walk into books and read all the medicine books, you'll say, what use are these medicine books to me? Because I don't have all these illnesses, you know.
Yeah.
And you read the medicine book depending on the illness of which you've got. The hadith is like that. You will turn to that hadith depending on what you need, the advice and system. And Tabari is a great example. I'm not saying Tabari is not, but again, you need to go to someone. Tabari, if we read it in Arabic, I don't speak Arabic, you don't speak Arabic, you would go to a jurist, someone will be able to understand Tabari, what was his tafsir.
Yeah.
Because even when you look at the Imams like Hanafi, Shafi, Hanbali, Maliki, again there is going to be different opinions depending on the tafsir and how you want to interpret it, depending on again multiple avenues. I know how things can sometimes appear on paper, but it's not always as black and white as we like to make it sound.
Can I reply? Because what I'm trying, there's now multiple lines of argument that are stacking up. Okay, the first one is that I feel that I've demonstrated, and I don't feel that I've heard a good response, demonstrating that the Quran testifies that Muhammad sinned. And as an auxiliary to that argument, I pointed out that Muslim scholars have convinced you to believe something that the Quran does not justify. And I want to give another example of the same. Another example where Muslims believe something believe something based upon what scholars say, not based upon what the Quran says. Because the Quran in Surah 6:150 forbids you from killing your children. And Muslims often boast that one of the things that Muhammad did when he came to the world is that he improved the situation of particularly women girls who used to be buried alive by the Quraysh. He stopped infanticide. But your same Muslim scholars have convinced you that abortion is not killing your children. But yet every geneticist, every embryologist who has ever spoken on this matter agrees that life begins at conception. No exception. Please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. And so your scholars are saying to you that you can have abortions in certain circumstances, but your Quran is saying to you that it's haram to kill your children. And so once again, what your scholars tell you and what your Quran tells you are two different things. And therefore, my friend, what I'm saying to you is that Muslims are beholden to their scholars, and their scholars are misleading them about the Quran. They lied to you about your Quran over and over again.
You are the biggest liar.
Muslim scholars used to tell you that every single Quran in the world was the same. They're not. Different Qurans are different.
Jesus crucified.
Do you want me to show you Surah 6:150, or have you found it for yourself?
You never criticize Bible.
In regards to the way
You
that the
never
Quran is taught
criticize
Yeah.
Bible.
Look at Surah 39 ayat 6. Even though you look at Bukhari Sharif, they will talk about the stages of embryology.
Yeah.
It is like a leech-like substance. Leech-like substance will cling on.
Yeah.
Cling on, it will then develop a small bone.
Yeah.
And then it will go from there, and then the soul will be breathed into it. Some scholars will say, I don't have the quotation here to quote exact.
Bro, don't let them. They're professional hecklers.
Then the angel will say, shall I
Do you want to stand here? Okay.
The angel will say, shall I breathe the soul into it? And then the soul breathes into it. I don't believe that's an argument. I believe that in regards to the embryology, it has been discussed to death, and it has been, the Quran does not state, it's very clear on the stages of embryology in the Quran. That's not something which I will argue with, because that is something which has been done to death by everybody.
I mean, it's a separate topic about whether the Quran is accurate, because the Quran describes bone and then flesh covering bone. However, we already know that that's scientifically inaccurate because bone and flesh grow together from the mesoderm. So that's just a scientific error in the Quran, but that's a separate issue. My point to you is that every embryologist who's ever spoken about this says that life begins at conception. That's when life begins. And the Quran says it's haram to kill your children. But your scholars have convinced you that abortion is halal in certain circumstances.
Can I speak to him?
No, I'm having a conversation with him. If he wants to let you in, that's up to him.
Sorry, we seem to be going from one topic to the other, right?
He's had this discussion before.
So what my concern is that we're going from one topic to the other, but we're not.
Brother, don't let them interrupt. When this guy interrupted, we agreed not to let him interrupt. Carry on.
In regards to, that's a totally separate. We were basically talking about from the inception of our discussion was, did the Prophet sin? Did the Prophet fear the people?
Yeah.
And the topic, which because if we keep going on to topic after topic,
let's stick to the topic. Yeah.
In regards to embryology, it's been done to death. You go to any, like for example, any scholar will be able to discuss that into a much clearer opinion and definition. But I believe the Quran is given a very definitive answer in regards to embryology, which is not ambiguous.
No, they're not Christian. You just say
non-ambiguous verses.
Killing children and babies is sin.
Go on.
But as for this here, with regards to Surah 66, Ayat 1, I don't believe this is convenient. This is just Allah telling His Prophet that what is halal for you, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
It's not convenient for him. It's not going into great detail to say that he has to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
It's basically reaffirming it. So that's Ayat 66.1. In regards to the fear aspect, I believe it's just the wording and how you want to define it. There's different types of fear. In regards to the wife aspect, that the Prophet can have multiple wives and we can only have 4. Well, trust me, my wife's only going to let me have 1, but let's not get into that.
Yeah.
In regards to
Are you disappointed?
Can't answer this, is on camera.
Alright, fair enough.
In regards to the Quran, the Torah and the Bible, the prophets had multiple wives. It's not a big issue.
Right.
They were given different deals to us.
Yeah. So allow me to reply, because again, you're saying that I'm saying that it's fear, but I quoted to you multiple translations written by Muslims.
It's not every translation.
But it's the majority. And the thing is, if the majority of scholars are saying one thing and you've got an outlying scholar saying another thing, you would be wise to listen to the counsel of the majority rather than the outlying scholar, unless that outlying scholar puts up a really brilliant argument to overturn everyone else. The fact that the majority of scholars say fear means that that's what the text is saying, and the text can't be read in any other way. Muhammad wanted to marry his adopted son's wife, and he feared the scandal that would cause, and that's why, even though Allah had said to him he could marry his adopted son's wife, he held it back because he feared the scandal from the people. And it says in the Quran that if you fear anyone other than Allah, you've committed shirk. So according to the Quran, Allah's own testimony is that Muhammad sinned. Now let me do a comparison for you, right? Because I want to try and show you why I think this matters, right? Because if you walked into a gym and you saw a fitness instructor who was rippling with muscles, and then another fitness instructor who looked as blobby as me, which of the two fitness instructors are you going to listen to? The one that looks like Mr. Blobby like I do, or the one that's got muscles on muscles? You're going to listen to the fitness instructor that looks like he practices what he preaches. Well, listen to what Jesus Christ, listen to what the scriptures say about Jesus Christ. It says in 1 Peter 2:22, speaking of Jesus, who committed no sin, nor was any deceit found in his mouth. In 2 Corinthians 5:21, God, focus bro, otherwise I'll just talk to everyone else. Yeah. So in 2 Corinthians 5:21, speaking of Jesus, He, God the Father, made Him who knew no sin to be sin on our behalf, so that we might become the righteousness of God. In Hebrews 4:15, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. The Bible is very clear. Jesus Christ never sinned. He's like the fitness instructor rippling with muscles. However, the Quran is very clear. Muhammad was a sinner just like all of us, just like all of us, sister, be quiet, please. Just like all of us, just like all of us, and therefore he's like the fitness instructor that looks like Mr. Blobby. You go and follow the fitness instructor that puts into practice what he believes. Now please know, I was interrupted continuously throughout that conversation, but no one's going to interrupt him. I take it back, he is being interrupted. Go on. No, let him speak. We're having a conversation. Go on.
Just let's say one thing.
If you want to let people love Jesus and love God, speak about your religion in a nice way. Don't criticize the Muslims. I am not Muslim, I am Christian. But you not criticize their belief.
Okay, allow me to reply to that, madam. Allow me to reply to that. Because God himself criticized the religion of the pagans. In Psalm, I think it was in Psalm 82, God said that their gods, speaking of the surrounding nations of Israel, are gods that they have made with their own hands. They have ears, but they cannot hear. They have eyes, but they cannot see. And they have mouths that they cannot speak. Christ himself criticized the Pharisees and called them vipers and whitewashed tombs. And Muslims in this corner, not this one, he's very kind, he's very gentle, he's a good guy, but there are lots of Muslims in this corner, madam, who come here every week criticizing the Christian faith. It is fair of Christians to criticize Islam when Muslims are criticizing Christianity, and more particularly the Quran itself criticizes the Christian faith. So go on, now you reply.
I would say in regards to, I need to go soon, right? So basically in a nutshell, in regards to the Bible, I could say which Bible, you know, which
I can answer that.
I'm just saying just generally, because the Bible itself has been refined and changed and written. They're screaming over me as well now, so let's just leave that. But in regards to the Prophet looking at his adopted son's wife, I am sure, not just on that one occasion, he will have seen her many times. Not in that condition, I'm not saying, but if he was, as you like to word it, lusting after her, he would have made this revelation long time and back to, I want to marry her. Why allow this marriage to proceed for so long? Right? If it was going to be a convenient verse and he really liked this woman, there's nothing wrong with him then getting this convenient verse revealed way back at the start. You know, there's no, if it wanted to be convenient, he did not need to wait till that climax to reach to when he sees her there. If it wanted to be to that point and it was going to be really convenient, it would have been done back at the start.
Yep.
I believe that to say it's convenient, it could have been more convenient. If you want to make something convenient, it can be more convenient. I would just say to end it like that, I don't believe the Prophet feared his people. I think he was more concerned about how they're going to react. And you can look at many laws in Islam in regards to this. I would say in regards to the Bible and the quotation about Jesus being this fantastic fitness instructor, I would be careful with that one, because which Bible do we go for? Because
can I address that point, because you made it twice now?
Yes.
So, which Bible do you go for? Here's my challenge. Find me a Bible that doesn't teach that Jesus is sinless and perfect. Because the reality is, until you can produce a Bible that teaches a different gospel than the one that I teach, then you don't have an argument. Because the reality is, Christianity is not like Islam. I'm inviting you to a better religion than Islam. Islam is a religion of the book. Islam is a religion of the book. Christianity, are you listening?
I'm listening.
Christianity is a religion about following Jesus as his disciple. It's about the message. And the message of every single Bible, and I challenge you, the message of every single Bible is consistent. Christ, who was sinless, died on a cross, rose on the third day, which confirmed his claims to be the Messiah. The Messiah is a divine figure. He is God and worthy of your worship. So bow down and worship him and become his disciple. And every single Bible that you pick up, every single one that is a Bible accepted by the church, will teach that message. So anyone you want.
My concern with the Bible is, what is the words of Jesus from? Like, if we go back to the Quran, even if you want to argue the Quran and say there was convenient verses or he's feared and all the rest of it, all Qurans are going to date back to, whether you believe it or not, round about the peninsula of the life of the Prophet. Right? Let's, for argument's sake, within the peninsula of the life
Go on,
of the
go on.
Prophet, right?
Go on.
Whereas every Bible we've got, is there one today that has actually been created or presented at the time of Jesus?
Right.
So I can't seem to see anything from his time.
Right, so let's address that point, because the point is based on a misunderstanding. The reality is, when Jesus was there 2,000 years ago, he didn't bring a book and he didn't give a book. He was the message. That's what it says in Hebrews chapter 1, that God has spoken to our people long ago in former times by the words of the prophets, but in this time has spoken to us in the person of his Son, the Word. That's what it says in Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. Slight paraphrase on my part, not an exact quotation. Now, let me finish. But when Jesus was arrived, the Old Testament was the Bible. And actually, we do have a copy of the Bible from the 1st century. They're called the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were preserved by the Essene community in the valleys of Qumran, in caves, and we found them in the 20th century. So yes, to answer your question, the Bible that Jesus read, the Bible that Jesus believed in, we have a copy of it from the time of Jesus. Furthermore, no scholar on earth, no scholar at all, not N.T. Wright, not Dr. Bart Ehrman, not Dr. Bruce Baxter, not Dr. James White, not Dr. Dan Wallace, all of them agree that all 27 books of the New Testament, all of them were written in the 1st century. There is no dispute on this question. So the reality is, no scholar is arguing that the New Testament was written outside of the time of Jesus.
My concern is that none of this is actually, like, if you go back to, like, for example, you says to me that the prophet has feared the people. This is convenient verses. He's telling his people. So everything we're talking about the Quran, whether it's negative or positive, regardless of which side it is, we can turn around and say the prophet says this, the Sahaba said this, the prophet said this. It's a ping-pong effect, right? Tabari and all these tafsir are after. But where is that ping-pong effect with the Bible? Okay, you're talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is pre-Jesus. Where have we got these books of the verbal communications of Jesus? Not his disciples, but him himself talking to his people saying, I am this and I am that. Not his disciples writing it, but these verbal narrations from Jesus himself. Where are these?
Okay, so let me reply to that. So firstly, I do need to correct you. The Dead Sea Scrolls are contemporaneous to Jesus Christ.
That's lie.
The Essene community was contemporaneous to Jesus Christ. They were there at the same time that Jesus was there. Thank you very much, sister. God bless you. Thank you. Okay, we'll talk later. Right, so bless her heart. That's sweet. So are you listening, bro?
Yeah, I'm listening.
If you want, we swap. So he's not shouting in your. So my first point is that the Bible used by Jesus, we have a copy of it from the 1st century. It's called the Dead Sea Scrolls. Secondly, you're working to both a double standard and a false paradigm. The double standard is that as a Muslim, you're committed to the belief that Jesus gave an Injil. Well, let me flip the question on you. Where's that Injil? Because if you're going to say that my Bible is a distortion of your Injil, you've got to actually produce the Injil to prove that point. And you have no evidence at all of the Injil. But here's what I have. I have the quotations of church fathers like Clement of Rome, who quotes and references the gospel stories, showing that the gospel stories are first set earlier than him in 90 AD. I have the references of the Didache, which reference the traditions of Jesus before the 1st century. I have writings of the church fathers that quote the Gospels as early as 120 AD. And for them to quote the Gospels outside of Israel by 120 AD means that the Gospels must have been written early so that copies could be produced to arrive there. So the historical evidence demonstrates that those Gospels are early. They were made by the church, and the church was founded by Jesus Christ and the inheritor of his story. If you can believe that hadiths that were written hundreds of years later can go back to Muhammad because Muslims remembered the story, well, why can't Christians remember a story for less than 100 years?
Because the way the hadith works is, so for
That's
example,
lies.
1 second.
Both tell lies.
I will tell my son something, and then my son will tell his son something.
Yes.
But every time it's passed on, the name has to be written. So when you look at the hadith, it will say, this person, son of such and such,
Yep.
slave of such and such, son
Yep.
of such and such, heard this from it.
Yes.
And depending on how many, and this is why the hadith is, there may be 50, 60 versions of one hadith, because there'll be 50 people narrating it.
Yes.
So we have generally, we might not have the exact pinpoint accuracy of it, but we will have the crux of it coming back to a verified forum. Whereas I'm still confused. I know we've got the church fathers
I'm all right,
the first
thank you.
120 years and the reprints that I didn't hear you, but I can't find anything which is the exact words of Jesus. I can't find any exact verbal narrations of Jesus. I can't find Jesus talking in any of these books.
Yeah.
This is my biggest issue, because they're all written by the church fathers. They're written by Paul, and they
No,
are.
they were written
Right, bear with me.
400 years
Bear with me.
after Jesus.
Right? Because here's the problem, right?
Bible
You're
was
working
written
to a
400
false
years
logic.
after Jesus.
You're assuming that Christianity must look like Islam. I'm inviting you to something better. The Christian faith existed before the Gospels. The Christian faith is not founded on the writing of the Gospels. It's not founded on the writing of the epistles. If you read the New Testament carefully, it's clear that the church was there before the New Testament was written, and that they had a faith that the writings speak into and speak about. So in other words, the faith came first and the book came second.
Never.
So what's important is not whether we can find the book of Jesus' day, let me finish, but whether the message is the same. And there is no doubt by anyone who has studied this, the church has consistently taught that Christ is the Messiah, that Christ was crucified, that Christ rose from the dead, he ascended into heaven, and he is coming again in glory to be the judge of the world.
I am
And that we
Messiah.
glorify Father,
Messiah.
Son,
I am
and
Messiah.
Holy Spirit.
You're
Now,
liar.
you
I
talked
am
about
Messiah.
hadiths. Let's just look at one of your sources of hadiths. Aisha. Aisha is caught red-handed lying to Muhammad. She lies to Muhammad. She says to Muhammad,
lie every
your
week.
breath smells when you drink the
lie
honey drink.
every week.
No, I'm going to finish. Right? And your hadith science says that you can't trust hadiths that come from a liar. And yet you trust the hadiths that come from Aisha, even though your own sources say that Aisha was a liar. Yeah, go on.
So just now me and you had this discussion. Every one of these guys here will go away and they will tell this story about what's been discussed today to their families.
Yeah.
This brother here may be a liar. This brother here may be amazing. This brother here may be a liar. This brother here is amazing. Okay. So okay, two liars have narrated this story tonight. Two truthful ones. Third, when any hadith is narrated, it's not one person narrating it. You're talking about Aisha narrating, Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa narrating it. She will not the only one be narrating this hadith. Any hadith which you go into Bukhari, Muslim, it is multiple sources. So if the Prophet says something sitting in the mosque, it's not one Sahaba saying this and we're saying this Sahaba is great. So there will be multiple sources brought right back to that day when they were sitting in the mosque with the Prophet who will verify it. Same with Aisha. As if Hazrat Aisha had heard him say that this was valid or that is valid, there will be multiple sources, because that's the way that's why they call it Sahih Hadith. It has to have the multiple sources that can be verified back to the source.
Yeah.
Not just one person. So okay, if you're telling me Hazrat Aisha Siddiq, I'll disagree with you on the point. I will not speak, anything about Hazrat Aisha. But I'm saying if you're saying to me that she is a problematic source, then what about the other X amount of sources that are quoting this hadith?
So let me address that point. Because the reason why you can trust the Gospels is because our
they are
Isnad
lies.
chain. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to raise my voice, but
they
not
are
because
lies.
of you.
Gospels
So I'm going to
are
raise my
lies.
voice, not because of this good man here, but because of my constant heckler. So I apologise. I'm not trying to be aggressive or rude.
Liar.
However, the reason why you can trust the Gospels is because our Isnad chain is only one or two people. That's as far as our Isnad chain needs to go before the book is written. That means, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't have the problem that the Muslims have.
You're a liar.
The Muslims have long chains of isnad.
You're a
Why?
liar.
Because their hadiths were
You're a
not
liar.
written until centuries after Muhammad died.
You're a liar.
2 centuries, 3 centuries later. The brother does not know
You're a
and
liar.
does not recognize
You're a liar.
that the Shia
You're a
accuse the Aisha
You're a liar.
of lying to Muhammad.
You're a liar.
They don't agree upon
liar.
which hadiths to believe in.
Liar.
So
You're a
Muslims
liar.
themselves cannot agree upon which hadiths to believe in.
Liar.
By contrast,
You're a liar.
every Christian agrees in the belief of the 27 books of the New Testament.
Liar.
It has universal
Liar.
agreement,
You're
100% acceptance.
You're a liar.
We know who wrote them. We know when they were wrote, ladies and gentlemen.
You're a liar.
However, here's the problem with hadiths. In the time when the hadiths were being created, particularly when the Abbasids and the Umayyads were fighting and overturning one another. I think it was the Abbasids that overthrew the Umayyads, or the Umayyads, which way was it? I always get it mixed up.
Regardless, it's
Yeah. In that period of time, in a time of Islamic revolution, many false hadiths were created. So what is to stop someone creating a hadith that they want to believe in and then just attaching it to an isnad chain that they already know is accepted by people in a time when everyone was making up hadiths? And we have examples of hadiths being made up that are demonstrated or called sahih when they are clearly fake. And we can demonstrate that, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the problem with hadith science.
Bob, I'm going to have to go just about 5 minutes. I'll just say, I know you're saying that there's 2 people, 1 or 2 people in regards to the Bible and your teachings.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for 2 people to, so if there's 10 people witnessing us, or there's 2 people witnessing us, it's a lot easier for 2 people to go home and tell a lie than 10 people to go home and tell a lie. Right? If 10
Pope is a
people were
liar.
sitting with the Prophet,
I am Messiah.
even if the chain of narration goes
I will
back
prepare
3,000
you
years,
world.
it's a lot
If
more
I'm alive,
verifiable than 2 people.
Yeah.
Pope, you are liar.
Right.
Go on.
You're liar,
So there's
liar,
two,
liar.
Me and you here. We can say, I said this, you said this, but 10 people around us is witnessing this conversation. If only 2 people were witnessing it, then it's more problematic than it would be 10 people. Because 10 people, you're going to have a more accurate representation of what's happened here.
Yeah. Shall I reply?
Of course. and then
Okay.
I have to go.
You need to go. I just want to say, what's your name?
Yes.
Iyaz. Look, Iyaz, I come to this corner every week.
To tell lies.
Very often,
To tell
the
lies.
debate breaks down because the person I'm talking to
tells
doesn't have the
lies.
mental
Every
competence
week.
or emotional
Every week.
ability
Bob
to
tells
have a
lies.
decent conversation. So I just want to say thank you for a really decent, well-mannered and polite conversation. I appreciate it very
Telling
much.
lies.
As a sign of my gratitude,
You tell
I want
lies.
to give you a gift.
Every
It's the New
week.
Testament. Have a read of that. And then,
That's-
you know,
that's
get
lie,
in touch
lie,
with me, bro,
lie.
with your toughest questions. Because honestly,
Christian
whilst I
copied
appreciate the fact
Torah.
you've tried to give a defense of your religion, at no point have you been able to respond to the arguments that I've made in a way,
Because
in
you
my
told
opinion.
the lies.
I'm not convinced by your responses.
To be honest with you, if the scholars here,
Yeah. There's no scholars in this park.
I'll say there's a lot of people that's 100% better than me, and if they cannot convince you, then I'm not going to convince you.
Yeah.
But again, sorry just to interrupt you, and it tells you this in the Quran, that there is people whose hearts are like stones. When the water gushes against it, some will melt, some will split in half,
Yeah.
and some will harden. And no disrespect to you, Bob, because obviously we've had a good conversation. If your heart is already hardened and not willing to feel that impact, then unfortunately, regardless of who speaks to you,
You've preached a good sermon to yourself, brother, and I hope you put it into practice.
Luke,
All right, God bless you. You
Luke
look after yourself.
18,
Right.
verse 27.
Okay,
Jesus
now
said,
shall we do a wrap up?
slaughter people.
So,
Jesus said,
so I'll stand here. I'll stand here. I'll stand. You stand there, bro. So, right. The reality is, guys. The reality is, guys.
What's the reality?
The Muslims were challenged about the fact that Allah in his Qur'an testifies to the fact that Muhammad committed sin. And Muslims have been convinced by their scholars to deny the testimony of Allah, that Muhammad was a sinner. And why does this matter? Because if Muhammad was a sinner, then he's no better than any of us. So why should any of us follow him? But the Bible is very clear. Jesus Christ was sinless, and he founded the perfect covenant that we are called to follow. And the man that is sinless is a superior teacher to the man that is sinful. And therefore, we are all invited to be disciples of Jesus and to follow Jesus as our Lord and Saviour. And that's why it matters, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done, Bofila. Welcome back. Praise the Lord.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?